But first, the family of the Winter Springs woman found dead in a storage unit is demanding answers about what led up to that mother's death. Good evening to you. I'm Eric Von Anken. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight. We told you last night that Shakira Rucker was found dead in a Zellwood storage unit. She'd been missing for a week, and while the search for her family has ended, her family still wants answers. News 6's Brad Didlake has the latest.
Family and friends have already come and gone, but we were with them grieving here at a neighborhood park. You can see right here where the candles were. More than 50 people mourn the loss of Shakira Rucker, a mother taken away from her kids. Rucker's husband, estranged husband, already in jail on a separate case. The family tells me that they're trying to make sense of all of this, but tell me while they're grieving, they want to get results.
My sister should have never been in that situation. Not in a million years I would have thought my sister would ever been in that situation. So if you're going through anything like this, please find help.
Emotional, Clarence Thornton, Shakira Rucker's younger brother, says it was touching to have family and friends honor the life of his sister. Late Saturday night, Shakira was found dead from gunshot wounds at this storage unit off 441 in Zellwood, bordering Apopka.
We were all hoping for a different outcome.
Orange County Sheriff's Office taking over the investigation Sunday. In a media brief, deputies say they were called to the area after reports of a foul smell. The unit registered to Rucker's estranged husband, Corey Hill.
There is no bond on count 1 and 2.
Hill already faced a judge this past Monday and was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder for shooting at his girlfriend and family on November 12th, the same day Shakira was reported missing a week ago today.
He is the suspect. We're not looking for anyone else. He will be charged with the murder eventually.
Back at the vigil, Thornton questioning the investigation process.
Very disappointing, because we told them that it could be the storage because all his furniture wasn't in the house.
Do you have any more questions that you would want answered about the whole investigation, how it turned out?
Yes, and for someone that works at the storage, like, how did you not know with all the cameras?
Those thoughts echoed by state attorney Andrew Bain, who showed support for the family.
It's frustrating. I mean, I can't make sense of that. I can't make them work faster, and I can't make them prioritize this case any faster.
Orange County's sheriff provided a possible answer.
There's hundreds and hundreds of storage unit facilities in Central Florida area, and that wasn't known until we received the call that was his.
Now, again, going forward, the state attorney's office said that they will be making a strategy before announcing any charges. Once we hear back from them, we'll get back to you on air and online. But for now, we are in Pine Hills. Brian Didlake getting results. News 6.
6 words. That's all a mother of 4 had time to send before she vanished. On my way home with food. She never made it. By the time her daughter read those words, investigators believe she was already gone, sealed behind a rolling metal door in a 10-by-10 room she'd never walk out of, while the man who put her there drove away like nothing had happened. It would take 6 more days, a stranger's ruined storage unit, and a smell nobody could explain away before anyone knew the truth. This is that story, but not the way you've heard it. Before I take you back to how this started, I need you to know something. This case has 2 victims. One of them didn't survive. The other one did and paid for surviving in ways you're not going to expect. If you've ever wondered what it actually costs a woman to tell the truth about a dangerous man, stay with me. Because by the end of this, the person you're angriest at might not be who you think. Let's rewind. Not to the storage unit. Not yet. Rewind further to a Sunday morning, months before any of this happened, in a church in Central Florida, where a man named Corey Hill is standing among the congregation, hands raised, mouthing along to the hymn like he means every word. They called him Ambassador Corey. It's not a title that came from nowhere. He built it piece by piece, the same way he built the electrical company he ran. The same way he built a name for himself as a man who had turned his life around. He talked about faith the way people talk about something they survived. He talked about grace, about second chances, about leaving the past behind. Here's the thing about men who perform redemption in public: Sometimes it's real. And sometimes the performance is the crime scene. Just one that hasn't happened yet. Because psychologists will tell you something uncomfortable about the most dangerous kind of narcissist. It's rarely the loud one. It's the one who wraps control in scripture. The one who uses the language of devotion to disarm the people around him, so that when something feels wrong, you doubt yourself before you doubt him. Why would a man who prays like that, who shows up every week, who calls his wife his queen in front of an entire online audience, why would that man be capable of anything monstrous? That question is the whole engine of this case. And Corey Hill spent years making sure the answer looked obvious. There's a pattern researchers who study coercive control keep coming back to. It's not the man who threatens you in the first conversation you have to worry about. It's the one who spends months building a reputation so solid that when something finally goes wrong, the people around the victim reflexively defend him. Faith becomes armor. Community standing becomes an alibi nobody even has to write down. And the victim, when she finally does try to explain what's actually happening behind closed doors, is the one who sounds unbelievable. Not him. That's not an accident. That's the design. He married a woman named Shakira Rucker in October 2022. She was 37. A hairstylist. A mother of 4. The kind of person whose chair people sat in for 3 hours and left feeling like they'd talked to an old friend. Her family says the same thing about her over and over, in slightly different words. She just wanted to work, worship, and raise her kids. Nothing complicated. Nothing that should have gotten her killed. On his social media, Corey documented the marriage like a highlight reel. Anniversary photos. Valentine's Day captions dripping with devotion. A man performing love in real time for an audience with the kind of consistency that looks on the surface like the opposite of a threat. Underneath it, a second life was already running. 40 minutes away, in a different county, there was a woman named Angel Milligan who believed she was dating a man who simply traveled a lot for work. That explanation covered everything. The mornings he disappeared. The nights he wasn't reachable. The gaps in his story that never quite lined up, but never had to because I travel for work, is one of the most efficient lies a person can tell. It explains absence without ever explaining anything. He mowed her lawn before 8 in the morning. Small, domestic, almost tender, the kind of gesture that makes a woman feel chosen. She filmed it once, laughing, and posted it online with his name in the caption, thanking him. She had no idea what she was actually thanking him for staying around to maintain. 2 women, 2 full households. 2 versions of Corey Hill operating in parallel, each one convinced the life she was living with him was the only one that existed. For months, that architecture held. Then, in the fall of 2023, it collapsed. And it collapsed because one woman refused to stay quiet. However Angel found out, the record isn't entirely clear. What's clear is what she chose to do next. She didn't confront Corey. She didn't wait to be sure. She picked up the phone and called the woman she now knew was his actual wife. Woman to woman, she told her everything. And in the background of that call, Shakira could hear him already furious, already exposed, already trying to control a situation he could no longer control. Shakira didn't ask him to explain himself. She didn't give him a chance to talk his way back in. She acted immediately, and she put him out of the house that same day. Corey told Angel directly that she would regret making that call. Sit with that for a second. Not I'm hurt. Not how could you. A threat. Delivered plainly to the woman who had just told the truth. Angel took it seriously enough to go to court. She got a legal injunction. A judge, in writing, ordered Corey Hill to stay away from her. Paper has never once stopped a bullet. Keep that in your head. We're coming back to it. An injunction is, legally, exactly what it sounds like, a court order. It carries weight in a courtroom. It carries none, physically, in a driveway, on a lawn, at a front door, when the person it's meant to restrain has already decided the consequences don't matter to him. Judges sign them because they're often the only tool available. Advocates tell survivors to get one because doing nothing is worse. But nobody hands a woman that piece of paper and pretends it's a wall. It's a record. A warning system. It only works if everyone downstream, police, neighbors, the person himself, treats a violation as something that gets enforced immediately, every time, without exception. That's rarely how it plays out in practice. For 2 months, Shakira did exactly what safety experts tell women in her position to do. She left. Not emotionally, logistically. She found her own apartment, built a life with her kids that didn't include him. 2 months of distance, 2 months of a fresh start, 2 months of proof that she was moving forward without Corey Hill in it. This is the part of the story I want you to actually absorb, because it's the part that gets skipped in almost every retelling of cases like this one. Leaving is not the moment danger ends. For a huge number of women in coercive relationships, leaving is the moment danger becomes acute. The most lethal period in an abusive relationship isn't the middle of it. It's the exit. Advocates who work with survivors will tell you this over and over, and it rarely makes it into the headlines. A controlling partner doesn't experience abandonment the way most people do. He experiences it as a loss of control. And men who have spent years managing that control through charm, image, and reputation don't simply let it go quietly. Some disappear, some escalate, and some do exactly what Corey did. They engineer a reason to be back in the room one more time under conditions that look, from the outside, like closure. In November, Corey reached back out. Nobody outside that conversation knows exactly what he said to get her back to a table. Maybe it was an apology. Maybe it was the promise of closure. Maybe it was simply that after everything, some part of her wanted to believe the man from the wedding photos was still in there somewhere. We don't get to know her reasoning, and I'm not going to pretend we do. What we do know is what he was doing publicly in the days leading up to that meeting, and it is difficult to watch, with the knowledge of what came after. 2 days before she disappeared, he posted a new photo of the two of them, arms around each other, a caption calling her his wings, his queen, the center of his world. The next day, he changed his online presence to formally announce them as husband and wife again. He wasn't rebuilding a marriage. He was building an alibi made of affection, a public record he could point to afterward that said, "Look how much I loved her," laid down in advance, before he needed it. On the evening of the 11th, Shakira left home and told her children she'd be back. A restaurant camera caught the two of them sitting across from each other. That is the last confirmed footage of her alive. A relative who later watched that video said something that has stuck with people who followed this case. She didn't look like herself in it. She wasn't smiling. I want to pause here.
Charged in connection to this missing persons case. News 6's Eric Von Anken live in Mount Dora right now, where Rucker's family is creating a search party near Hill's home. Eric.
Justin, right, this is all a little bit complicated here. We're trying to wrap our heads around this and get the information as it's coming in to us. As you say, so there was a search in this area for that missing woman, Shakira Rucker, I should say. She's the one who disappeared from Winter Spring. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky. She was estranged, married to, but estranged from that guy, as you mentioned, Corey Hill, who was arrested for a separate situation. So one thing at a time. Corey Hill disappeared, we're told, with Shakira Rucker last week. We're told that they were last seen together. Well, then Corey Hill, according to investigator, claims that he dropped her off, but she hasn't been seen since. Well, then just a day later, Corey Hill ends up getting arrested for attempted murder. It turns out that the family of the woman that he was in a relationship with after his estranged wife, That's the one, that's the family, we're told, where he was arrested for attempted murder. The family is here. They just told me a story, a wild story of him coming to their house with a gun, shooting up the house, running around the house, eventually leaving, thank God, before anyone was hit by those bullets. And eventually Corey Hill was arrested for attempted murder in that case. Again, that was a relationship, we're told, that he was having with someone else. So where we are right now, Corey Hill, I'm told, lives on this street, across the street, one of those houses just behind me. We're told that's why the family members of both of these women, the one who survived that alleged attempted murder and the one who is missing at this point, are both here right now searching this neighborhood, hoping that they might find her here, potentially because of the link, because of Corey Hill living right here. Investigators, I can tell you, just saw them a few minutes ago up the street in front of me. They're going door to door. They're also knocking on doors, trying to get new information. Last they were told, a text message from Shakira's phone came into her kids over the weekend saying she was headed home. Of course, she never made it home. For now, we're live in this community here in Mount Dora, just off State Road 46. If you'd like to help with this search, we'll see you again coming up at 4. Eric Von Aken, Getting Results, News 6.
All right, Eric, thank you.
Because if you're watching this, and any part of it feels familiar, a partner who explains every disappearance, a one last conversation that something in your stomach is telling you not to have, this is the moment. Not after. Not when things calm down. This exact kind of moment, right here, is where these stories usually turn. I'm not going to tell you what to do with that feeling. I'm just going to ask you to actually listen to it, because the woman in this story didn't get a second chance to. Corey later told investigators that after dinner, he drove her home and dropped her at the mailboxes outside her building. Her family rejected that account instantly. Surveillance from the next morning shows something entirely different. The two of them, together, walking into a rented storage unit. Later alone, Corey walking back out. Shakira did not walk out. Not that morning. Not ever. Somewhere in that half hour, a text left her phone and landed on her daughter's screen. 6 words about coming home with breakfast. Investigators now believe that by the time it was sent, she may already have been dead, which means the last message her daughter ever received from her may not have come from her at all. Read that again. Somebody may have used a dying woman's phone to buy themselves time. Think about what that means for the 6 days that followed. Every hour her family spent believing she might still be reachable, might still be somewhere within the range of a phone signal, might still be alive, and simply unable to call all of it, may have been built on 6 words designed to buy silence, not comfort. That's not just a murder. That's a second violation, layered on top of the first, aimed at the people left behind. Corey wasn't finished that morning. Around 10, he drove to Angel's house. The house protected by that piece of paper. He didn't knock. Witnesses say he told her not to run. She ran anyway. Rounds followed her into the house close enough that she felt the air move beside her face. Her children were inside those walls when the shooting happened. She survived. He fled, and deputies caught him a short time later. By the time he was booked into county jail no bond, multiple felony charges stacked against him, Shakira's family still had absolutely no idea where she was. They searched anyway. Wooded areas, open fields, on foot, in the rain, day after day, following every scrap of a tip. Her mother gave a live television interview begging for information and collapsed on camera mid-sentence. Her daughter said, in an interview that's almost unbearable to watch, that she didn't know how to live without her mother in the world. And across town, in a jail cell, the one man who knew exactly where she was said nothing. Not to detectives. Not to anyone. While a mother of 4 lay exactly where he'd left her, and her family combed 70 miles of countryside in the wrong direction entirely. Her brother had given police one useful lead, that Corey's house wasn't fully furnished, which sometimes means a person is keeping something somewhere else. A storage unit, maybe, But Central Florida has hundreds of storage facilities. Knowing the type of place to look and finding the one specific unit are two completely different problems. And for 6 days, that gap between close and found was the difference between a family in agony and a family with answers. The break, when it finally came, wasn't police work. It was a bad smell that somebody refused to let go. A man renting the unit next to Corey's noticed a reddish fluid creeping under the shared wall days earlier. He raised it with staff, and this is the part that should make you angry. He was told it was probably an oil leak. Told again the next time he raised it. Told a third time by a different employee that there was nothing anyone could do. He didn't accept that. He documented it himself. He called it in himself. And it took a facility manager cutting the lock off that unit with her own hands 6 days after the last confirmed sighting to finally end the search. I want to sit on that for a second, because it matters. A member of the public raised the alarm multiple times before anyone with authority acted. Whether that's a training failure, a liability avoidance reflex, or simple negligence, the effect was the same. A family searched 70 miles away from where their daughter had been the entire time, because the people paid to notice something wrong didn't. Think about the layers here. A mother was reported missing. A restraining order existed on file. A search involving law enforcement was actively underway 70 miles from where she actually was. And at the same time, in a completely unconnected part of the county, a paying customer was telling employees multiple times, across multiple days, that something in the unit next to his smelled like death and looked like blood. Two systems, a criminal investigation, and a private business sitting on pieces of the same puzzle, never once talking to each other, while a family waited by a phone that never rang with good news. Inside the unit, deputies found her body, a spent cartridge casing near her, and 2 tires placed over her, as if that could make what happened there disappear. Here is the part of Corey Hill's story that reframes everything you've just heard. This was not his first time. 30 years earlier, in December of 1992, his infant daughter had been inside a car that was stolen and thrown from the vehicle during the theft. She survived. Weeks later, Corey tracked down the man he blamed, confronted him in his own front yard, and shot him dead. He was convicted of second-degree murder and served over 20 years before his release in 2005. He went back to court 3 separate times after that, on assault charges. Then he left the state entirely, moved to Florida, and started built the business, built the church attendance, built Ambassador Corey from the ground up, brick by brick, until nobody around him had any idea what he'd already proven himself capable of. That's the part that should unsettle you most. This wasn't a good man who snapped. This was a man who had already killed once, already served 2 decades for it, and was handed his freedom back with nothing asked of him in return, no monitoring, no flag, nothing that followed him into his new life. He didn't have to hide who he was from a system that was watching. He only had to hide it from the people who loved him. And he was good at it. Good enough that a congregation welcomed him. Good enough that a business bearing his name earned trust in a community that had no way of knowing what his name was attached to 30 years earlier. In a different state, under a different life. That's not a loophole in the system. That is the system, a version of justice that treats a prison sentence as the end of the story, with no mechanism for anyone downstream to ever learn what came before. In January of 2024, a grand jury indicted him on 9 counts, including first-degree murder. Prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty, pointing to the calculation behind it, a unit rented in advance, a body deliberately concealed, and a 30-year-old conviction that proved this wasn't a man capable of losing control by accident. At a later hearing, family members say Corey sat in the courtroom and blew kisses at them, mocked them, mid-proceeding, for the murder of his own wife. His attorneys later tried to have the storage unit evidence thrown out entirely, arguing the search was unconstitutional. A judge denied it. The case is now heading toward trial. I told you at the start that this case has 2 victims, and I meant it. Angel Milligan told the truth at the exact moment silence would have been easier. She made a phone call that likely saved another family from years of not knowing, because it's what pushed Shakira to leave in the first place. She was shot at for it. Bullets went into the walls of a home with her children inside it. And afterward, instead of being treated like a woman who did something brave, parts of the internet treated her like she owed somebody an explanation, as if being lied to by a man running 2 lives was somehow her fault for not catching it sooner. Months later, after the news cycle had moved on to the next case, she posted something quiet that almost nobody saw. That no help came. Not for her. Not for her kids. That the bullets had landed close enough to her baby to feel, and then the world simply moved on, because her story didn't end in a body count. That's the part of this case that doesn't get told. The survivor doesn't get a foundation named after her. She doesn't get a courtroom full of people demanding justice on her behalf. She gets to live the rest of her life having done the right thing and having very nearly paid for it with everything. There's a particular kind of cruelty in that outcome that's worth naming directly. Angel is, functionally, the reason this story has a resolution at all. Without her phone call, Shakira may never have left when she did. Without the injunction, there would be no documented record of Corey's threats predating the murder, a record prosecutors are almost certainly using right now to argue premeditation. Her decision to speak protected a woman she'd never met, and it nearly cost Angel her own children their mother. That's not a footnote in this case. That's a second act of quiet heroism that most retellings compress into a single sentence on the way to the part everyone actually wants to talk about. Shakira Rucker did not die because she was naive, or because she went back too easily, or because love made her stupid. Every single decision she made after learning the truth was the correct one. She left. She built a new home. She got distance. She did the thing every safety expert tells women in her position to do. And it still wasn't enough, because the system around her had already failed years before she ever met him. The moment a man convicted of murder was released, with no one required to watch what he did next. Her sister said something after all of this that deserves to be the headline of this entire case. More than any of the crime scene details, that affordable housing, financial dependence, and the sheer lack of anywhere else to go are among the real reasons women stay in dangerous situations. Not love, not denial, just the absence of an exit that doesn't cost them everything they have. Her family started a foundation in her name aimed at exactly that domestic violence awareness and transitional housing for women trying to get out safely. Because leaving shouldn't require a woman to gamble with her life. And right now, for too many people, it does. 3 separate systems intersected in this case, and every single one of them had a gap wide enough for a man like Corey Hill to walk through. A justice system that didn't track him after release. A rental facility that dismissed a paying customer 3 separate times. And a culture that still in the year this happened found it easier to ask what a survivor could have done differently than to ask why a twice violent man was ever left unwatched. None of those gaps killed Shakira Rucker on their own. Together, they built the exact conditions that did. I don't ask you to subscribe because it grows a channel. I ask because every one of these stories starts the same way, with the people closest to it saying nobody was listening. The neighbor who smelled something wrong for days before anyone acted. The friend who noticed the relationship changing and didn't say anything. The platform that decided a survivor's story wasn't worth showing, because it didn't end the way the algorithm rewards. If this story sat with you the way it sat with me, do one thing before you close this tab. Not for me. For Angel and for every woman like her whose story never gets the ending that gets remembered. Say her name somewhere. Share this somewhere. Because the only thing worse than what happened to Shakira Rucker is a world that lets it happen quietly. To someone else. Because nobody was paying attention the first time. If you're drawn to cases like this, the ones where the system had every chance to stop it and didn't subscribe now, there's more to tell. And it deserves an audience that actually listens.